Well, I have Hannah from Middle Kids here with me today. Hannah, thank you for joining me in the green room. How is everything in your world right now?
It's like just we're just living each day by day. Things are fine. I mean, we have a little studio in our house, so we just kind of tinker away, but just taking it day by day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's not the most ideal of circumstances currently for you guys, but there is so much going on in Middle Kids world. For many of us, the idea of a live show, let alone an international tour, is the stuff of fairy tales at the moment. But this is exactly what Middle Kids are about to embark upon, taking your new album, Today We're the Greatest, on the road in North America. How does it feel to be, I believe it's officially the first Australian-based band to tour the US since COVID kicked off?
Yeah, I know. I mean, we can't believe it. Like, we've kind of been like not even thinking about it because we're like, it'll probably just, get cancelled or whatever. But it's happening. We're going 3 weeks. We're so excited because we tend to spend a lot of time over there, like since we've kind of been a band. So we haven't been there for almost 2 years, which is pretty nuts. And just to like freaking play, like we were laughing because, we can't see the other boys and like rehearse. We're going to be like so shit because we like haven't played for so long. But we're like, maybe this will give us an interesting edge in our live show, a sloppy edge. No, it'll be fine.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we're like super excited. I think we're going to, over like 20, almost like 25 states or something. And this is the first time we're taking our little baby boy with us, which is like gonna be interesting for sure. But we're just like, we'll do anything, just to play shows. And so we're very excited.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear you. That was actually one of my questions, if the bub was going to be making the trip with you. So I think your child's going to be better traveled than I am in the space of like a month. So that's a big plus for him. But tell me, with this whole process, I mean, obviously it's been a little bit of a journey to get to here. What was the actual process to pull this off? Was it a huge uphill battle to actually get this to happen?
The American tour?
Yeah.
I mean, I could probably say, oh, it was probably easy. And my team's like, how dare you? We've been, sweating blood and tears to make this happen. I mean, I think it has been a lot of work. But I think, we started kind of planning it a while ago, and we've just kept making plans, keeping them open, seeing, how to do it. But there were kind of a few hurdles that we had to jump, even getting like exemption to get out of here. Back when we were planning it, like, could we get vaccinated, all these kinds of things, and it just so happened we were like able to get over each hurdle to like now be at a point where we're like, oh shit, like we're gonna do it. So I think it's kind of been this like evolving thing, and it's a little bit challenging now because Delta is kind of ripping through America again. So I think the tour itself is going to be not like necessarily like classic good times out on the road, just like I think it's going to be a little bit more controlled, which is like it's just times.
Yeah. Oh God. I think for so many of us, we all thought, I've said it to so many people, we thought that when like January 1st, 2021 came around, we thought it was just going to be this magic reset. But I mean, the fact that you are able to do it, it's so exciting. It's so inspiring. And I know it's been a couple of years since you guys have played in America. And as you said, it's not your first time heading over there. What is the reaction normally like? I don't like to use the word normal, but obviously COVID times aside, when you do play in America, is there like a quote unquote typical Middle Kids fan no matter where you play?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because we find like the fans are also different, like depending, like you've got your like American Middle Kids fan, you've got your European Middle Kids fan, and your Australian, like they're actually like quite different. And we love playing American. I mean, we love playing everywhere, but Americans are just like, they're so like sweet and earnest, and like I think culturally they're quite like positive, extroverted, and so like, Australians are a little bit more like, we tease or a bit sarcastic, like, nah, which is super fun. And then you go to America and they're all just like so nice to you. And so we all like kind of get a big pep in our step whenever we go play in America, because everyone's like, wow, that was so good. And like, it probably could have been really shit, but they're just like really like nice and encouraging. So, and then also something that's cool about a lot of like American fans is like heaps of fans will like travel to see like multiple shows. I mean, not we don't have like heaps and heaps, but we have like fans that we've like gotten to know that will fly to like different parts of America and sometimes come to like 5 or 6 shows, because for them it's like, I don't know, I mean, it's quite like a common thing obviously through rock and roll in America where you just like do that, but you know, and they also like see it as a way to like see a new state and like go to, you know, see America. And then like we end up like getting to know them, and like some of them like are really nice and they'll like give us like gas money and make us cupcakes, and then some of them are like a bit weird, but like weird is good. I'm into it.
Hell yeah. And especially, I mean, it's just like this little eclectic family that you're kind of like, you know, cultivating along the way. And there's always the weird uncle in every family. So it's all good.
Exactly. And like that's so much of what we love about music is like just, yeah, like the absolute like eclectic nature of it, and the fact that like, you know, you can be like partaking in something and the person standing next to you is so different to you. And like, you know, so all walks of life are like welcome in music, because it's like, it's just like such a soul thing. It's such an energy that like, if you connect with it, it's, you belong, like that's your thing. And that's like, for us, like one of the thing that feels most important and special is that like, you know, we're creating spaces and being a part of spaces where like people from all walks of life, you know, are there. And like, that's a classic thing with middle kids too. Like we'll have like, you know, fans that are like 12 and then like fans that are like 60, you know, like kind of like, and that's like, you know, that's classic for heaps of music. And but that's just something that's like really special to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, it does span all those generational age brackets. I mean, I know my mum, she's actually has listened to it and she loves you guys. And like, I know people younger than me, like it's amazing. And it's just, it's nice to find those meeting points. Not that you need it necessarily, but I do love that. And on the international topic, you have also had some incredible runs showing overseas in America, getting even more fans, no doubt, out of shows on Jimmy Kimmel, CBS This Morning, and The Late Late Show with James Corden, which you absolutely slayed. And it wasn't the first time with James Corden. I know you featured back in 2018, but with a 2021 showing of these kind of things, what was that experience like? What went into the behind the scenes of these performances to actually bring them to life?
Well, yeah, I mean, it was such a, you know, stark difference, because when we first started doing late night, like our first one we did like Conan, and like it was our first tour to America, we were like babies and we had no idea. And you just like show up to these studios in LA, like where they film the show, and it's like you plug in and you have like one chance to do the show, and you're just like, oh God, and like, and so it's like really high pressure, but you just literally rock up and you play. And now doing these ones at home, it was so different because we had to put so much creativity and thought into how to kind of like, you know, film it and make it interesting. And so on one hand, it was like kind of cool because, you know, we were curating it and could like kind of put our personality into it. But on the other hand, it was also like a lot of work, as opposed to just like rocking up and like someone like painting your face and then you just get out there and play. Like this, we were like, you know, taking weeks to do. So but it was really cool. And like, you know, it's really awesome that we can do those even from Sydney. Because that's obviously like been a really hard thing, like just not being able to be there. And so it's cool to have like opportunities that we can do from here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess too, being in Sydney and living this lockdown life of late as well, have you guys been using this time to kind of reinvigorate your life set, or like plan any new surprises into what you're going to do when you hit the States? Like, is it giving you that chance that you probably never have had this moment to sit still for this long?
It's true. I mean, we've never, like, we have just been like historically on the road, like, you know, probably average 9 months of the year. And it's like, you know, we've almost been here like 2 years. And there have been really cool things that come from that. Like you have the time to reflect and then also envision like, you know, what, and be quite intentional about like where you're wanting to go. And I think that was like very helpful even for this album that just came out, for us to kind of like be a little bit more thoughtful. Whereas like usually when we like release anything, it's like always between like this tour and it's just like madness or whatever. And then, you know, it's like, oh, cool, I've got all this time to write. But like, it's been so interesting because I'm like discovering more and more that like I'm like a very central person, in that like a lot of my energy comes like through experiencing life through all my senses, and like obviously it's like so limited at this point. Whereas like, you know, so many other artists, like all of the magic is inside them, and they just need to look inside and it's there. And I'm like, there's not much in here, like I need to look around and like just like, you know, grab it. I mean, yeah, it's like, so I think it's been an interesting time of like having a lot of like the external, well, like pressures, but then also like energies like kind of being stripped away, and then looking at like, who am I as an artist, and who are we, and, you know, what do we want? And I think it's like, it's been hard in many ways, but I actually think it's been like really refining and helpful to kind of like make sure you like never lose your heart and like the soul of what you're doing, because you can, you know, if you're just like going along and doing all the things, like you can just kind of like take the steps and forgetting like where you're trying to go and what you're trying to do. So I think from like a big vision perspective, I think it's been a wonderful time for me personally, of just kind of being like, you know, why am I doing this? What do I want to do with it? What's important? But kind of alongside of like just feeling like creatively, like it's a challenging time, you know, to kind of like get inspired or whatever. You know, but that's okay. Like I think you just have to roll with like, you know, what your life is. And so we roll in.
Well, and you rolled exceptionally well. Like today, We're the Greatest was an incredible outing. I mean, I know it was quite a substantial amount of time between releases for you guys, which was not the case. Like you, I mean, between 2017, 2019 was essentially release, 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 and obviously all the tours around it. Like obviously the parameters of COVID put its own unique challenges into it, but did you guys already have a plan to kind of explicitly look for new ways to kind of create music or write music for this new album even before COVID kind of kicked off? Like, did you have a natural progression stylistically, or did you really look to actually shift or challenge yourselves?
I think there was a shift, like a shift that we were like, we're turning here for this record. I think like even what you were saying, like a lot of like my writing had like comes out of like just a really like it just kind of flows out, and I'm like, okay, whatever's there is there, like, you know. And a lot of the songs I was just like writing in sound checks, and this one, it was more like creating space and trying to like dig and explore, as opposed to just kind of respond to like what was coming out. And so then it also then was very like not as influenced as much by, you know, the kind of big rock, like our more previous music's like more kind of like influenced by our live show, like being on the road a lot in America, and like kind of these big rock shows, and which is like such a cool energy, but I think wanted just to incorporate a little bit more of like a kind of a sensitivity and a beauty. I mean, because even a lot of the music that I listen to has that, which is like a big deal for us, because I think like even my performing style and all of us, like when we get out there, we just like to be like and like thrash about and like kind of get out of there. But we were really lucky in that we got to do a tour for this record, just I don't know, April, May, and it was really interesting because we like were playing the record and having a lot more kind of like down moments energy wise, like was very like new space for us to be sitting into, and felt like quite vulnerable for me. I couldn't just like hide behind like high kicking around the stage and just like yeah, you know. It was like more like, you know, just about like the song and my voice and the story. And it's like we're like and also I guess because we were playing in like concert halls too, so like everyone had to be seated because of COVID, and obviously that energy is like so different from just like a normal middle kids show. So I think like, yeah, there was like definitely more thought that went into making this record, of like trying to make different kind of moments. And then yeah, it's just been really interesting how that translates into our show, which is why I like also really excited to keep playing it, like because I feel like I almost like get to know the record by playing it. It's like you make it and then kind of sits there, and then I feel like I get to know the songs again by playing it. And you know, we've only played a handful of shows, and usually we're just like, you know, playing show after show, so I feel like these songs are still like I'm still getting to know them.
Yeah, well, it's interesting too because some of the fans have probably had more time to sit with it than maybe you have been able to perform it live. So in a way, like, but the nice thing is for a lot of us, we kind of will get to explore that more with you guys as you can do more and more tours. And the album, it's interesting you touch on that because obviously there seems to be a lot more personal and resonating narratives coming out of it, and it does obviously give a lot of insight into your own experiences during your pregnancy. Like, what a beautiful snapshot of this incredible moment in your life. And I did read something really fascinated me. When you mentioned that your voice was actually affected by the pregnancy, like what an incredible testament to the human body. But
Mm.
recording, finishing an album, touring, then having a baby, and then everything happening against the backdrop of a pandemic, like album number 3 will have to probably step up to beat such a memorable release. Like I can't wrap my head around that. Like even 2 out of however many things just blows my brain. But looking back on it, like does it feel like really separate because it was kind of happening during all of that happening, and now obviously you've had your baby, you've had the album out. Like how does that feel in conjunction with each other, those experiences?
Well, yeah, it feels like, I don't know, like I'm like I don't really think hate, like I'm just like go go go, and then I look back and I'm like, oh shit, like we just like got through all that, or like, and I mean I think, there was definitely like some urgency for me, like in making that record, because I'm like, I got to make this before the baby comes out, because I have no idea what life looks like on the other side of a baby. And now that I have a baby, I'm very glad I made the record before the baby came out.
Very smart.
Yeah. And I think that, yeah, it's like I definitely am one of these people who just kind of like go 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 go, and then looking back and going, whoa, like we just went through this whole thing. And I think that like it can sometimes be detrimental to my life, but sometimes can be really helpful, because like even like say performing, like I'm actually quite nervous about performing. I don't sometimes I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like very stressful, and I get very nervous. But I have this like amazing ability to just be like, don't think. And then I get out there, I'm like, oh shit. And then like, and then I don't know, I just have this amazing ability to just disconnect from my emotions. So it's like, yeah, I feel like this release has been so wild, but it didn't even really feel like it, to be honest. It was like, just took it a day at a time. And like, I knew a few things that I wanted, like make the record, get the baby out, get this tour done. And, but like, just kind of almost like bite-sized pieces. And then you kind of like, almost after the fact, kind of connect with the intensity. And that is true. Like I feel like after the record came out, I felt quite overwhelmed with like the journey that we went on to get there, but I wasn't feeling it in real time. Like it just like takes like 6 months or to a year to like catch up with anything.
Yeah, I think it's so funny, isn't it? When you're in the middle of something and you're in that flow state, it's almost like you've got these blinders on, and then you're like, how the hell did I do that? I don't want to do that again. And then suddenly you've done it again.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I think it's a testament to like the human ability to kind of like get through things. And like, the only problem it can be is if you're actually going down a bad path and you're not properly connecting with it. And then you're just like, which I've definitely done, is like just you go self-destruct and you don't even realize it, and then you're like, where am I? I've just made like some decisions. So you've got to like but it's cool. It's pretty amazing like what you can do.
Yeah, but absolutely. And I think more specifically what you can do, because I don't know many people who could probably have done that and also be performing live while like 7.5 months pregnant. So many hats off to you. And I feel like you and Tim are probably some of the coolest parents in town. Like, how are you feeling being able to take your beautiful baby Sonny on the road with you to North America for these shows? Like, that's got to be something pretty sensational to consider.
It's pretty awesome. And like I feel like it's like he's such a great kid. I mean, I think kids are great generally. They're so weird and funny. And I feel like, he's going to probably have like a bit of an alternative upbringing. And sometimes I'm like, I hope this is fine. But then I realize like, he comes from us. Like we're building a world that I feel like he just is like, he's coming from. And so I feel like kind of keeps making sense if we can do that. And, and it's it seems like, because he came on tour with us around Australia, which is obviously like way more chill, and he really liked it, and we just take a nanny with us. And I feel like so thankful that I can like, yeah, keep doing this and have him with us. It's like kind of one of those crazy things where like, if it was just one of us in the band, it would actually be a lot easier because, you know, one of us could just go, but then also like I wouldn't be able to be with him, you know, or vice versa. So I feel really thankful that like he can be with me, because now he's like my little pal. And but it's also like, it's going to be insane. Like, you know, people are like, having kids, like, you know, really like is intense. And you're like, oh shit, it's really intense. And, you know, there's all this like, you know, all these narratives like women can have it all. And you're like, yeah, we can, but it's like kind of fucked. Like I'm dying. But it's like, it's good. Like you realize like your capacity increases and you can do it. But like, I think like, I'm like, I get why people don't do it. You know, I get why people might like wait and try this, you know, so it's definitely a lot. But I think, you know, we've got such a good support network. Like our team is freaking amazing. And the fact that they would even like be willing to come in a bus around America for 5 weeks with an 18-month-old, I'm like, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an adventure. And I think like, we've just got to figure out how to do it in a way that like is like works for everyone, you know?
Yeah. Well, I feel like the way you approach even your creative stuff, it sounds like you've got your shit together massively. So I have no doubt you're going to smash this out of the park. So
Thanks.
I've got high hopes for it.
Back.
Yes, please do. But I know you'll be fine. You're going to nail it. But I know you guys have obviously played that many shows. If I sit here and name them, we're going to be here for like 5 hours. So let's not do that. But given you're imminently about to have a heap more shows under your belts, can you momentarily take me back to the first ever Middle Kids show? Where was it? Who was there? And what was the most memorable moment from that show?
Oh, okay. I haven't thought about this for a while, but we played this show in Sydney at, I don't even know if it exists anymore. You might know, I think it's called like Oxford Circus.
Oh, that rings a bell.
Yeah, like it was like kind of a new venue when we played. It was like quite small, like 150 cap or something. Yeah. And we had already released Edge of Town, like our first song, but we hadn't like signed or anything. So like it was like we had a bunch of buzz around the band. So we like I remember I made this like stupid little poster being like Middle Kids, like, you know, $5 entry, like kind of thing. And like it sold out in like really quickly. I mean, it was obviously really small, but we were like, oh, okay. And then it was this really like kind of quirky venue that had like, you know, the classic like red velvet and like skulls and candles and all these kinds of things. It was like pretty vibey. But it was just like, it was such a fun night because it was like packed and like everyone was like pretty loose, and we were like it was just like, I don't know, I guess for us it was like at a time where like, you know, we'd all been like making music for ages separately, and you kind of tinker away, and I never actually really thought I would like do much with it. Like I was just like, oh, I've got these songs, whatever. And then so it was like at a time where it was like, oh, like, okay, we're doing something. And so like it was just like super fun. And I remember also I have this thing where like I'll often eat like a big chicken burger before I play a show.
You're my soulmate.
Which is crazy because like I feel terrible every single time, but I can't stop. Like I'm obsessed. And it's like I'm obsessed with chicken burgers generally, but now also this like pattern has developed where I'm like, it almost like doesn't feel right. Like it can be interchangeable with like anything other that will make me feel terrible. So like it could be a pizza or like a burger or whatever, but like chicken burger is like kind of the ultimate for me. And I had this like, yeah, big chicken burger and like a couple beers. Like I can't drink beer anymore before I play because then I just end up like burping the whole time. But I remember just being out there and just being like, oh my God, like meat sweats from like my chicken burger. And I'm like burping, but I was like, just like blissfully, like, I just didn't care. And it was like one of those like kind of like nights where you're like, oh, it was brilliant. Like it was probably messy and slop. Like we were probably like all over the place, but like in my memory, it was like a great night, you know?
Hell yeah. Well, clearly it was, because look at where you are now. Like, I feel like I think the story checks out entirely. And also, yes to the chicken burger, and yeah, yes to all the beers back then. But yeah,
I mean,
obviously
I'll still like do it. Like, I usually try and like drink like something else before I go on now, but like every now and then, you know, we always like on our rider, we'll just be like, you know, like we'll say like a local delicacy to see like what they put in, and then also like a local beer. And so then sometimes I like can't resist. But
yeah. What's the weirdest local delicacy you've ever got?
Oh, it's like you get weird things. Like one time we got cheese curds. I think it was either in like maybe like Toronto, because they're like super into cheese curds over there. And like I'm pretty sure in like Australia, we're not even like our health, like food and health, like won't let us eat cheese curds. Like I'm pretty sure like, but they're like, have you ever had poutine?
Yes.
Okay, so they'll often like put these cheese curds over poutine, but like they just gave us like a bag of like raw cheese curds, and you're just meant to like eat them. They're like, yeah, they're really squeaky and nice. And I was like, but it's, yeah, you get like really fun things, especially like in America when you're in like a new place every day.
Yeah. Well, that was essentially my last question, has always been, because you're on the green room, what would you have on your rider? I feel like we've smashed that question out of the park without even knowing. So you're doing my job for me, which is absolutely brilliant news for me.
But it's funny because like our riders like very like, we're always like, okay, we have to think through our rider, especially when you do such a big tour like in America, and we have like alternating riders, because otherwise, you know, you're just getting the same thing every night.
Yes.
So we definitely like put a lot of thought into curating our rider, and I think we're at a good place with it. We've got something for everybody, you know?
Yeah, I love it. And any new additions for the American tour?
The new addition actually is Oreos and milk.
Ooh, yes.
Which
that's
again,
so North American too. I love it.
I know. That's on our big rider. So every second day we get Oreos and milk. And again, milk is not great for performing, but you know, I've got a nice self-sabotaging streak in me.
Well, whatever it is, call it sabotaging, it seems to be working. And I feel like I can't wait to actually hear about the stories that will unfold in the very imminent future from this tour. We will all be cheering you on as little kids take over the world yet again. And I'm so excited. Hopefully we can also see you again a lot more in action in Australia when you get back.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Incredible times ahead. Thank you for joining me today, and all the best with America.
Thank you so much. It's been really nice to chat.
Yay.
The Green Room with Tiana Speter is a podcast from the Handshake Agency Network, produced by Tiana Speter and Andrew Mast, with Pharrell D'Souza and Henry Gibson providing research. Recorded and engineered by Zake Parker, executive producer Craig Treweek.